Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
The SEC Media Days begins tomorrow in Hoover, and that means media guides will be handed out. Alabama will feature 4 different covers. Mark Ingram's cover includes offensive lineman Barrett Jones, William Vallejos, and James Carpenter on the back. The Greg McElroy and Julio Jones cover has wide receivers Marquise Mays and Darius Hanks on the back. The Dante Hightower and Marcel Darius cover has Luther Davis, Josh Chapman, and Courtney Upshaw on the back of it, while the Mark Barron cover has Trent Richardson and Preston Dial on the back of it. And you know Alabama's the defending national champion, so it should be no surprise that the Tide leads the preseason coaches All-SEC team with 6 first-team selections. I'll quickly run them down. Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram, wide receiver Julio Jones, offensive guard Barrett Jones, defensive lineman Marcel Darius, linebacker Dante Hightower, and defensive back safety Mark Barron, all first-team selections. 3 second-team selections, Greg McElroy, Trent Richardson, and James Carpenter. So 9 overall selections. The 6 on the first team is the most by any school. The 9 overall, second to Florida, which has 10 overall selections. And with that, I say good evening and welcome into another edition of Tider Insider TV presented by Buffalo Rock. Tonight, Pepsi. I just love to do that. Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com alongside. Remember, for the latest on the Crimson Tide, anytime, day or night, log on to TiderInsider.com. Of course, I'm Gary Harris, and we've got a lot going on this week. Also, tonight on the program, we'll have our 3rd installment of our 2010 football previews. But first, we've got some troubling news regarding Alabama defensive stalwart Marcel Darius. Rodney, report by Mark Schlabach and Ivan Mazel on ESPN.com this afternoon say that the University of Alabama officials are investigating whether Darius broke NCAA rules by attending an agent's party in Miami's South Beach earlier this summer. Of course, he's one of the top pro prospects in college football, and he's the latest prominent college football player to be entangled in an evolving NCAA investigation into illegal contact and conduct by sports agents. Now, it's very preliminary at this point, Rodney, but obviously, potentially, you know, based on what we know about players with agents, this could be a story that could hang over this football team and could potentially cost Darius games or even the entire season.
Could,
what happened.
Could, and again, you mentioned, Gary, I think the key point in what you said is that it's very, very preliminary at this point. So, and I know a lot of people, especially on the internet, TiderInsider.com included, are jumping to conclusions, already writing off the season for Marcel Darius. Again, it's very premature. You remember last year, Mark Ingram, Julio Jones, people said 4-game suspension minimum, and it turned out to be nothing. So again, there may be something to this, but you know, let's wait and see.
All right, I know people hear agent and they already automatically panic. Of course, the big thing is whether or not the trip was paid for by someone else other than Darius, mainly if it was paid by the agent and or their associates. The travel, the lodging, entertainment, food. Now, Marvin Austin, a player from North Carolina, another great defensive lineman, is involved. A tight end from South Carolina is involved. There could be other players involved. Again, we'll just have to wait and see. But there is no proof right now that Darius did anything wrong. If he or someone from his family paid for his flight down there and his lodging, then everything could be okay. But that's up to Alabama and the NCAA to find out. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and you mentioned to Gary, we talked about it before the show. There's some talk off on the internet that maybe Marvin Austin is claiming that he might have paid for both Darius and himself to fly.
Of course, where
does he get the money?
So we'll just have to wait and see. But I know Alabama fans are concerned about Darius, but this is a problem all over college football. We talked about a couple days ago, Marquise Pouncey, the Florida offensive lineman, may have taken money in between the SEC championship game and the Sugar Bowl. So if he played in that game after taking money, then Florida will probably have to forfeit that game. It's just a fact of life. And agents, for whatever reason, trying to get an edge, always try to get to these players early and try to entice them. It's like Steve Spurrier says, if you're a good player and you want something, you can get it. It just comes down to the player. And, of course, Alabama has as good an education program in regards to agents as there is in college athletics. So you'll keep your fingers crossed in regards to Marcel Darius. All right, let's talk football recruiting, Rodney. And Alabama picks up a big commitment on Monday from Ryan Kelly. You've been talking about this guy a lot on TiderInsider.com. Was in town this weekend, got back to Ohio and said, hey, I'm going to play for the Tide.
Well, you know, Gary, a lot of people haven't been talking about Ryan Kelly as a potential commitment to Alabama, but You know, talking to Coach Larry Cox up there throughout the spring, we knew that Sal Sinceri, who recruited him, really liked Ryan Kelly and came down this weekend on a visit this past weekend, went back up, immediately committed to Alabama. Big pickup, very, very versatile, could play tackle, could play guard, and is a star center at this point in high school.
Yeah, going to be a really good player. The second offensive line commitment for the class of 2011. Let's talk about some other top prospects. Speaking of Ohio, Sal Sinceri recruiting Trey DePriest. It looks like it's Alabama, Ohio State. At times, it has seemed that DePriest was ready to pull the trigger for the Tide, but you know the Buckeyes not going down without a fight.
No, they're not, Gary. And again, there's been reports over the last week that now Ohio State's moved forward. Our sources have maintained that Alabama's still in outstanding shape with Trey DePriest. I think he commits to Alabama before the end of the summer.
All right, Ari Conjo signed with Alabama last year. His younger brother, who's even bigger than he is, look at those guns. Cyrus Conjo, 6'7", says 287. I've talked to people who say he's now well over 300, about 305, but he's a tremendous athlete and offensive tackle.
Yeah, he is, Gary. He was here for several days, just got back to Maryland. We talked to Cyrus this afternoon, and he had a great visit, really loved it. I think, though he didn't say this, I think Alabama is obviously the strong leader for Cyrus Conjo and the #1 offensive tackle in the country.
This next name will be familiar to football fans. George Atkinson was a tremendous player, one of those great 70s secondaries the Raiders had. His son, George Atkinson III, is also a tremendous prospect, but he's out there in California. Alabama have a realistic shot.
He's been here. He's here tonight as we speak. A tremendous prospect, very great, very good speed, 10-500 meters guy, and from Granada High School out there. I think Alabama has a shot at George Atkinson. We'll find out just how much of a shot after his visit concludes.
I think it's obvious since Nick Saban's been at Alabama that he would like to sign a top-tier running back every year. They're trying to get one this year. Brown out of Texas and also Isaiah Crowell from Columbus, Georgia.
Yeah, Malcolm Brown, as you mentioned, out of Texas. Isaiah Crowell from the state of Georgia at Carver High School in Columbus. Maybe the #1 back in the country, certainly one of the top 2 or 3. And he was here this past, I think he was here yesterday, in fact, Gary, along with Gabe Wright, his teammate, the great defensive lineman. And I think Alabama has an excellent shot at both of those guys. We'll see how it goes. I know that Georgia's in very strongly as well, as Auburn's been in the mix with Gabe Wright, the defensive lineman. Crowell, it's been an Alabama-Georgia thing. He says they're tied at the top, but again, Alabama needs a top running back in this class.
All right, Rodney, good stuff as always. Let's move from recruiting to our football previews. We'll make our predictions on games 9 through 12 later, but let's start with our previews. Game number 9 on the schedule, the annual showdown with the LSU Tigers. Bama has a 2-game win streak over LSU, but this year the game is back at Death Valley. And on November 6th, there is a possibility that Les Miles could be fighting for his coaching career in Baton Rouge. This is going to be a heck of a football game. No surprise LSU has a bye. Everybody does before Alabama, but Alabama also has a bye before this game as well.
Well, Gary, you know, LSU is a very, very talented football team. Les Miles has continued to recruit well, and so they've got a tremendous amount of talent. There you see the stars, the wide receivers, Terrence Tolliver. Don't forget Reuben Randall started coming on late in the year, the freshman sensation. Jordan Jefferson, you mentioned there, does he take the next step? He's a talented athlete, has a lot of ability. A lot of people think, Gary, this is Les Miles' last year at LSU.
You know, one thing about LSU, even with the problems in the last couple of years, they're still a team, and you can't say this about everybody in the SEC now under Nick Saban. They're still a team that matches up physically with Alabama. They've got the athletes.
They play a physical brand of football, and you know, last year they had Alabama. They were up in the 4th quarter. You mentioned it. They play a very physical brand of football. But again, I think when you look at LSU this year, they've got to replace Charles Scott, but they've got a plethora of young guys back there, and I think they're going to be a very talented football team. It's going to be interesting to see where LSU is come that game.
It will be. All right, Rodney, good stuff so far. And still to come on TITV, we'll continue our football previews. Well, a new quarterback helped the Auburn Tigers in this year's Iron Bowl. Also still ahead, when Georgia State comes to Bryant-Denny Stadium, you'll see a familiar face coaching the Panthers. Does Bill Curry's team have a chance to even keep the score within 30 or 40? This is the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV.